Hi, and thanks for joining my session. And thanks again, Figma, for having me here. I'm Francesco, an Italian designer based in Stockholm, and currently a design system manager at Klarna, which, for those of you that never heard about it, is the largest private fintech in Europe. So today, we want to tell you a story about how we internationalized our typography stack in 40 steps. The story begins in December 21, last year, when the market expansion group at Klarna reached out the design system team with some concerns about how to expand better, make our Klarna products more global and inclusive. And the question was about typography, because we are going to, support languages that not based on the Latin alphabet and Latin scripts. So the question was how prepared we are for this. But before to dive into the actual story, let's have a little bit of context for people that are not typography nerds like you and me. Well, fonts usually are divided in three major areas. There are Western fonts that always include Latin scripts, and very often they include also Cyrillic and Greek letters like Inter UI from Rasmus. And sometimes they can even have three additional letter scripts that are Armenian, Hebrew, and Georgian. Like Circular from Spotify, they have all of these 6 scripts. Then we have Arabic fonts, and they can be either bundled together with Western fonts or treated separately, like San Francisco Arabic and Noto Sans Arabic. The third major areas are CJK fonts, which stands for Chinese, Japanese, and Korean fonts. They are very big in size. Only the Chinese alphabet has more than 90,000 glyphs. And, they're better to be treated separately. One thing to notice, CJK fonts, they always include the Latin letters to use a fallback in case some English words appears here and there. Here you can see the font stack at Microsoft. They treat Western and Arabic areas with one single font, the Segoe UI, and then they use custom-built fonts for each other areas and CJK areas. And they went even further using traditional and simplified Chinese in 2 separate fonts. This was how Klarna treated our typography stack. A custom fonts with 2 different families, one for text, one for headings, and only letter scripts, so only Latin scripts. So that was our design system challenge for this year. Provide support for the additional Western fonts, Arabic fonts, Asian fonts, without breaking anything. And that's where our actual story begins. We started to evaluate our option, and the first one was basically open our wallet. Upgrade our custom fonts for all the different areas, but we're talking about design more than 100,000 glyphs for each font weight. We're talking about 4 to 6 months of work, millions of dollars, and of course, maintenance, reworking, stress testing, not the greatest option. There is no surprise that this solution is the one that's adopted by the largest company in the world and the ones that provide the operating system our products run on. So the second option was to just get licensed fonts for the missing areas, but we didn't want to increase the complexity of our system. We wanted to reduce it. And we had another major problem. Different fonts have different weights, X8s, and baselines, and it's not that uncommon that different scripts appears in the same screen. So there was a lot of optical balance to tweak and define, so we avoided. This solution, we may call it Western first, using custom fonts for the Western area and then to find alternatives for the missing parts. So it's fine that the bravest solution was also the easiest one. Like, we decided to go back to basic and test our typography with only system fonts. It was the easiest, safest, and even fastest solution to date. It's totally based on the operating system rule set. The loading time was basically 0 because the font is already into the device, and it was remotely maintained. By who? By the 3 companies that I mentioned before. Apple, Microsoft, and Google, they take care of the entire font family property in your CSS. One very clever thing to notice, Apple decided to have a generic shorthand for their font family. So just in case in 2-3 years, Apple decide to replace San Francisco with another thing, people at Apple, please don't. Your developers in your company, they don't have to do anything. It's already there. This solution basically ensures your products to work anytime, anywhere, and on any device. And that was our goal. So it was time to get some stakeholders buy-in. And no matter how many advantages we can collect, the app felt more native, the letter forms were easy to discern, we even managed to improve the performances in the app, there was one huge disadvantage, and it was brand equity. As you know, typography is an essential part of the brand experience, but it's not a surprise that the brand experience and the product experience, they sometimes not fully overlap because of the hardware, because of the software, because anything. So we started to advocate and try to achieve the brand equity without relying on typography and find different perceptual patterns, like TikTok, that use signature animations in their product experience, or using a unique accent color like Spotify, or define an iconic visual language like, well, Figma. Or, like us, keep pushing on our quirky and bold attitude in every occasion possible. And that was our trade-off. If product typography needed to be neutral, then everything else needed to be exceptional. And we got our deal, and it was time to swap our typography system. And that's where I wanted to talk about the little feature at Figma, which is swap library. It works great if you keep your basic system separated, something that we already had. Our typography system was one separated file with our 4 token types, and we just needed to focus on the font family. We cloned the file 3 times, one for iOS with San Francisco, one for Android with Roboto, and one web-safe fallback with Arial. And we started tweaking a little bit because fonts are not all the same. For example, San Francisco is a little bit wider at small sizes. We tested it in our huge component library, and we also made sure that this swap feature was available also to individual contributor that sometimes works on both iOS and Android screens. And that was it. We hit the publish button in our main component library and in other design system file, and overnight, styles and components silently updated, seamlessly working in in our workspace. And yeah, 150 designers were happy, 2,000 engineers were happy. They work every day on more than 5,000 design files. And let's be honest, most of them, they even notice that something has changed in their screens. And that was it. Now we are ready to take over the world, one country at a time, with amazing products for payments, shopping, banking. And if this story seems very simple, it's because at a certain point, we just decided to follow one single principle. The principle that our products don't need to look the same or look everywhere. They need to work everywhere. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. And enjoy the rest of the Config 2022. And if you can, please donate to the Red Cross. Enjoy.